There is an ancient rule in the dark corners of the cosmos. Never wake a sleeping giant. The Galactic Empire didn't just wake us, they tried to chain us. They saw Earth as a primitive garden ripe for the taking. They saw our vessels as cosmic scrap metal. But as Admiral Toole watched his invincible armada turn into burning stardust against the cold hull of the Defiance, he realized a terrifying truth. Humanity wasn't hiding because we were afraid. We were hiding because we were the only thing in this universe that actually knew how to hunt. The battle for the Sol System was over. But the war for the stars, it has just begun. And this time, we aren't defending. In the Imperial throne world, the silence was suffocating. Reports were trickling in from the Outer Rim. The legendary Seventh Fleet, the pride of 1 trillion stars, had been erased. Not by a fleet, but by a single human vessel.
Admiral Tull stood before the High Council. His voice, steady for 3 centuries, was now a fractured whisper. "They didn't use plasma, my lords," he gasped. "They used mass. They accelerated chunks of raw, unrefined iron to near light speed. Our advanced energy shields didn't even register them as a threat until our hulls were already shattered." The Emperor looked down from his crystal throne. In his eyes, where arrogance at the edge of the Krell Nebula, the Empire's most fortified listening post sat in heavy silence. It was protected by a Dyson-grade shield, a barrier supposedly impenetrable by any known weapon in the galaxy. The station commander, a veteran of 1,000 conquests, sipped his nectar, laughing at the reports from Earth. A single ship? Impossible, he sneered. Suddenly, the space-time fabric began to groan. A jagged blue tear opened in the void, screaming with energy. And out stepped the Defiance. It didn't look like a ship. It looked like a floating mountain of cold black steel, scarred by the fires of 100 battles. The Imperial sensors went haywire, lighting up red across every console. Warning: extreme kinetic mass detected. A message flickered onto the main Imperial screen. There was no video. There was no audio. Just 3 words in bone-chilling, stark white text. Knock, knock. Empire. Before the commander could even scream the order to prime the cannons, the Defiance began to hum. It wasn't the glow of lasers or plasma. It was the sound of 1,000 magnetic coils accelerating a 5-ton slug of tungsten to 3% the speed of light. The shot didn't just hit the station. It ignored the shields entirely, punching through the impenetrable barrier like a hot needle through silk. The listening post didn't explode. It disintegrated. Admiral Tull watched the live feed from the throne world, his hands shaking. He realized then that humanity hadn't just built a ship. The wreckage of the listening post hadn't even cooled before the Defiance turned its massive engines toward the heart of the Empire. Back on the throne world, panic had replaced order. The High Council scrambled to activate the Star Eater mines, a defensive grid designed to swallow entire fleets into artificial black holes. They thought they could stop us with gravity. They forgot that humans spent centuries mastering the very physics they tried to use against us. As the Defiance approached the first minefield, the ship's AI, a cold and calculating consciousness known as Vengeance, spoke over the internal comms. Targeting systems locked. Gravity wells detected. Initiating phase shift. Instead of slowing down, the Defiance accelerated. It didn't dodge the black holes. It used their own gravitational pull to slingshot deeper into Imperial territory. We weren't just faster, we were smarter. Admiral Toole watched the tactical map as the blue dot representing the human ship bypassed every single trap they had set. They are heading for the shipyards of Krios, he realized, his voice trembling. Krios was where the Empire built its sun-crushing dreadnoughts. It was the industrial heart of their reign. If Krios fell, the Empire would be crippled for 1,000 years. The Emperor stood up, his regal robes discarded in a fit of rage. "Send the Royal Guard! Deploy the World Killers! I want that ship erased from existence!" But as the Imperial Royal Guard jumped into the system, they found something they never expected. The Defiance wasn't alone anymore. Behind it, emerging from the shadows of the Nebula, were 12 more signals. 12 more ships, identical to the first. Humanity wasn't just sending a message. We were bringing the end of an... The Imperial Royal Guard, the most feared warriors in the galaxy, froze in their cockpits. They had come to destroy a single ghost, but they were staring at a graveyard of their own making. 12 shadows of black steel aligned perfectly with the Defiance, their magnetic rails humming in a terrifying symphony of death. "They didn't just build one," whispered the lead pilot of the Guard. "They were waiting for us to find them." At the Krios shipyards, the massive, half-built dreadnoughts hung like paralyzed giants in the void. The humans didn't waste time with warnings. All 13 ships fired simultaneously. 13 slugs of pure tungsten, traveling at relativistic speeds, tore through the shipyard's infrastructure. It wasn't a battle. It was an industrial demolition. The explosion was so bright it could be seen from the neighboring star systems. The pride of the Empire, the shipyards that had conquered 1,000 worlds, was gone in less than 60 seconds. Admiral Toole watched the feed go dark. He turned to the Emperor, who was now slumped in his throne, his face pale and hollow. "They aren't here to conquer us, my lord," Toole said, his voice devoid of all hope. "They are here to replace us." But the humans weren't done. As the rubble of Krios floated into the dark, the Defiance sent out a final wide-spectrum broadcast to every world under Imperial rule. It wasn't a demand for surrender. It was a question. The Empire is bleeding. Who among you wants to be free? Across the galaxy, 1 billion oppressed souls looked at the sky and saw the blue rift of the human ships. And for the first time in history, they didn't see an end. They saw a beginning. The broadcast sparked a fire that no Imperial sun crusher could extinguish. On world after world, the statues of the Emperor began to fall. The invincible walls of the capital were no longer terrifying, because everyone knew even gods can bleed if you hit them with enough tungsten. The Defiance and its fleet didn't stop to celebrate. The massive beam fired, a pillar of blinding white light aimed directly at the Defiance. But the humans didn't move. They didn't dodge. Instead, the 13 ships linked their energy signatures, creating a localized gravity warp that bent the light itself. The sunbeam didn't destroy the ships. It was reflected back toward the Citadel's own power core. The explosion shook the very foundations of the planet. As the shields of the throne world flickered and died, the Defiance descended through the clouds, its shadow covering the Emperor's palace like a shroud. The final message was transmitted, echoing through every speaker in the city. No threats, no demands, just a simple fact. The age of kings is over. The age of humans has arrived. The galaxy watched as the Golden Citadel went dark, not with a bang, but with the quiet hum of a human engine. The giant was awake, and it was finally time for the universe to find its peace.
But as one empire falls, others are watching from the deep dark. Will the universe accept its new masters, or is a bigger storm coming? To witness the next chapter of humanity's rise, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. You don't want to miss what happens next. This is just the beginning of the Terran era.